Just stand up here. Okay, guys, the process is to do what? You've got to go around your center so the energy can stay in your center. Okay, once you start moving off the ball, like I am now, then all the energy moves away from your center, and then you have to make up for it on the way down. So in order for me to swing the club faster and get more club head speed, I've got to create the width on my swing plane and keep the club out in front of me, keep the club out in front of me on the swing plane, okay, as it goes around my body. So even though it goes around my body, it's still out in front of me on my swing plane. Okay, very important point. Again, because I'm going around on my center and I'm staying centered, see, this is centered, okay, and that's swaying. So if I stay centered, the energy stays in my center. So even though the club goes up and around my body, the club, because I've taken it out on plane, is staying out in front of me on my swing plane, not out in front of me on my body. Because remember, the swing plane is the most important part, okay, of your swing motion. See, because again, if you stayed centered, your club, again, stays out in front of you on your swing plane all the way to the top. And when you get to the top, in order for me to stay centered, I got to have about 10% more weight on my lead leg as my trail hip goes back. See, now what we're doing is we're equalizing the pressure on my rear hip and a little more weight on my lead leg just to keep me centered. Again, this is not a tip, it's not a fix, it's not a secret, it's not a gimmick. It's physics on how you stay centered to keep the energy in your center. So if we can keep the energy in our center, now when we drop our arms, when we arm lunge or drop down, there's no unnecessary movement to move back or to try to sway back if we swayed. So now it's totally efficient coming down on the plane, and now the energy is being released from my center out to my arms, wrists, and hands, out to my club head. Okay, so through impact, even through impact, I stay centered, okay, as my trail shoulder, okay, moves under my lead shoulder really efficiently, okay, and then through impact, and I release out to my target on my swing plane, okay, I'm still centered, so the energy is released everywhere in my golf path, everywhere in my golf plane, swing plane, energy is efficiently released out to my target. So my point is, through all that process, what happened? Well, because I stayed centered and dropped my arms, my head stayed back, which locked my shoulders back naturally, automatically. I don't have to think about locking my shoulders back if my head stays where? On the downswing, if my head stays back behind the ball, okay, whether I'm right eye dominant or left eye dominant, as long as my head stays back, it's going to lock my shoulders back automatically. So if I can lock my shoulders back automatically as I come through, my hips, guys, can't see my hips will release automatically, getting the energy from the ground as I rotate through on my inner big toe on my trail foot. I keep saying all the time, guys, the hips need to be fed. They're not feeders. And what I mean by that is your hips aren't the primary source of how you get more club head speed, but they are a source. The center has more function, but the hips have an important role in getting the energy through the club. But without the center, the hips can't be fed. You see, without the center, the hips can't be fed from the ground, from the inner big toe, rolling on the inner side, on the trail foot. It can't feed the hips. So the shoulders feed the hips and the rear foot feeds the hips, as long as you do what? As long as you keep your head back, it dominoes all the way down, and it happens together. Because when I get top of my backswing and I stay centered, as my arms are, look at my rear elbow. I get the top and I'm just sort of playing this out here. It's not how my elbow would be. My elbow would be like this if I had a club in my hand. But if I came here, as soon as I start dropping, see, I want this drop. See, right now, as my arms begin to drop, my hips now are starting to settle. Okay, the settling is this hip bump they're talking about. But see, a bump relays too much motion in the golf swing, too much hip movement from the hips. What I call it is, as I'm dropping my arms, my hips settle. They settle for the drop, and then what happens is when I get to the slot, the cradle here, then they fire fiercely through the ball, but only after you what? Only after you set the environment for them to fire with a nice, what I call, one-piece downswing through the ball. See, and that's what happens. So That's how you generate more club head speed. Okay, again, you don't generate more club head speed by telling someone like a fix, a tip, a gimmick, or a secret. No, you can't say, well, the secret to swing, the secret to club head speed is moving the hips, or the secret, to getting more club head speed is swinging harder. I've heard that so many times at my clubs in Louisville. Well, just tell them to swing harder. I mean, they're gonna swing the club anyway. They might as well swing hard, or they're gonna mishit it anyway, so they might as well mishit hard. I mean, so that's garbage. I mean, that is just total garbage, and I've heard that from several different people who've read books, who've been to clinics and that kind of thing. But that's my point. Now, what I just explained to you as far as how to generate more club head speed. Think about this. So what do? We generated more club head speed because I told you that the energy came from your center and released out to your arms. If you sway off the ball, the energy is released out and not in. Coming from within. Okay, so if you grip the club right, posture right, and center right, then what else have you fixed? Well, you fixed your slice. Well, why? Because you stayed on your center. Again, a slice, guys, originates from swaying. When you sway off the ball, you got to sway back. And what happens is the shoulders come over